All right, let's get right into it. For years, we've all been building these digital fortresses, right? Firewalls, network security, the whole 9 yards. But what if I told you the fight isn't happening at the castle walls anymore? Today, we're going to explore the new frontline in cybersecurity, and it's probably a place you're not even watching. So let me ask you something right off the bat. When you hear the phrase identity theft, what comes to mind? Probably personal stuff, right? Like someone's credit card gets stolen or their social media gets hacked. But I want you to think about it in terms of your organization. Is it really just someone else's problem? Because, and this is the absolute key takeaway, the whole game has changed. The front line of a cyber attack, it's not your network firewall anymore. It's shifted to something way more personal and a whole lot harder to lock down: a person's digital identity. Okay, so what do we actually mean when we say the new frontline is the ID? Let's break it down and see exactly where this fight is really happening. So here's what that new battlefield looks like. Think about it. Attackers are now going after the SaaS platforms we all rely on every day, and they're using AI to do it, to speed things up and find weak spots like never before. Their weapons of choice: stolen credentials and something called synthetic IDs, which are basically fake identities stitched together from real and fake data. And here's the absolute kicker. The target isn't the network anymore. It's the identity of every single person using your system. Now, I know this can all sound a bit theoretical, so to make it crystal clear, let's dive into 3 recent real-world examples. These cases show exactly how these identity attacks are playing out right now. First up, we've got a case that shows a really worrying trend that's picking up speed: AI-driven attacks that go straight for the jugular, the critical SaaS apps your business can't live without. So how does this actually happen? Well, attackers use AI to just constantly scan for holes in platforms like Workiva, especially when they're connected to something super important like your Salesforce CRM. And how do they get in? They use those stolen identities we were just talking about. But honestly, the door is often left wide open for them because of 2 huge yet common mistakes: simple security misconfigurations and, you guessed it, giving people way more access than they actually need to do their jobs. All right, for our second case, we're going to look at something that proves that even the big, trusted cloud platforms we rely on can be a huge point of failure. Yeah, I'm talking about the massive breach at Snowflake. And look, this incident really shows you the sheer scale of the risk we're talking about. The 2024 Snowflake breach, I mean, this wasn't just a small hiccup. It was a huge, widespread event that hit a ton of their biggest customers. It was a massive wake-up call for everyone, really, showing just how fragile the whole cloud data world is when identity becomes the weak link in the chain. Okay, for our last case, let's look at a threat that's a little different. This one doesn't come from a direct attack on you, but through a trusted partner. We're talking about a third-party vendor breach, and the incident at Qantas is a perfect and pretty painful example. So what was the real-world damage from this vendor breach? Just look at this number: 5.7 million. That's the number of Qantas customers whose personal data got leaked. And the crazy part? It wasn't even a failure at Qantas. It was because of a weak link one step down their supply chain. That is just a staggering number. And that right there, that is the textbook definition of supply chain risk. It's a vulnerability that doesn't start inside your walls. It starts with an external partner, a vendor, someone who has totally legitimate access to your systems and data. Honestly, it's one of the biggest blind spots for companies today. Okay, so we've seen how fast these threats are evolving. It's pretty obvious the old security playbook just isn't going to cut it anymore. The defensive rulebook is being rewritten as we speak, and the official standards are changing right along with it. And a perfect example of this is a big update to a key international privacy standard. See, it used to be that if you wanted to get certified for your Privacy Information Management System, or PIMS, you had to get certified for your entire security system first. Privacy was basically just bolted on. But now, starting in 2025, that's all changing. Privacy certification is becoming its own thing, totally independent. And that's a huge shift. It makes it so much easier to prove you're serious about privacy. And don't worry, this isn't happening overnight. Let's take a look at the timeline. The new standard gets published in 2025. That kicks off a transition period for businesses that's expected to last until about 2028. So that gives everyone a 3-year window, more or less, to get their house in order. So why should you care about this? What's the bottom line? Well, it's pretty simple. This update makes everything easier. It lets companies get certified for privacy management all by itself. That makes it way, way easier to show you're compliant with big global rules like GDPR. At the end of the day, it's just a much stronger tool for beefing up your company's overall privacy governance. Okay, we've seen the threats, we've seen how the rules of the game are changing. So the big question is, what do you actually do about all this? Let's turn this into a practical defense strategy you can literally start thinking about tomorrow. Here it is, your 3-point battle plan. Nice and simple. First, you have to center your entire defense around identity and access control. That means you need to know exactly who is accessing your SaaS apps and why. Second, start planning for that new privacy standard now. Don't wait. Use this as your chance to finally get your security and privacy folks on the same page, working as one team. And third, fortify your supply chain. You have to audit your vendors, check for misconfigurations, and never, ever assume they're as secure as you are. And that brings us right back to where we started, doesn't it? I asked if identity theft was just someone else's problem. Well, now that we've seen the new frontline, walk through those real-world breaches, and laid out a path forward, I'll just leave you with this one final thought. Is your company's identity, the digital identity of your people and your data, truly protected?